Hello, you guys. Welcome to this week's episode of the Expand and Evolve podcast. I'm your host, Carly Pinchin, and this week I just had the most insane week at Awaken. So it was back to back. I went to Awaken and then I went to a health mastery intensive for the mastermind that I'm in. And both together combined was so incredible. But also, when you're doing that level of deep dive work, like you're doing meditations, you're doing breath work, you're diving deep, you're self-reflecting, you're acknowledging things and that have happened in your life and like how you ended up where you are, and you're doing that healing work at that level of intensity back to back to back, it can be heavy, it can be taxing, it can be emotionally draining. It can be like to full transparency, like I went to Austin. I've had my hinge set to Austin. I created a hinge when I was in Australia and I had it set to Austin. I had full intentions of like, okay, when I'm there, like I'll go on dates for the first time. And when I was there, like nothing in me wanted to meet anybody. And I don't know if this has to go with the realizations that I had while I was there. As I say it out loud, I think it might be. But and I'll get into that in a minute. I'm just going to give you guys kind of like a I don't want this to be, I could honestly talk for 3 hours. So I'm probably going to keep it more on like my biggest biggest takeaways for myself personally, and then some things around relationship most likely. And then depending on where we go with time, by the time I get through that, I may jump into the health intensive part, or I will just make that a different podcast episode entirely. So for those of you who are interested in the health part, I can send you to that one. For those of you who are interested in my personal realizations and more on like the relationship side, that will be this one. Anyways, so I set my hinge to Austin, okay? And there's been a couple guys that I've been talking to, and nothing serious. Like we just follow each other on Instagram, have talked back and forth, barely though, right? And I fully intended on meeting some of these guys while I was there. And when I got there, I just couldn't bring myself to meet anybody. And I don't even know, where was I going with this? For how heavy it can be emotionally. So like I had intentions on meeting people. I was like, I just thought, oh yeah, like conferences end at like 5. I'm going to have the whole night to be able to do stuff. First of all, I had friends there. And then also, can you see it? Like my body language change? I'm getting so uncomfortable even talking about this. And anyway, so like nighttime came and I just didn't want to. Like I didn't want to meet anyone. I didn't feel like talking to anyone. And I just was like, you know what? This work is so intense sometimes. And even though I've done so much and I feel like I've come so far, it just doesn't end. Like I think you peel back the layers, and with every level, like this is the one thing I'll say if you haven't dove deep into your healing work, is don't be afraid of it, because you will only be met with what you're capable of tolerating right now. So for example, like I've discovered that I was sexually abused. Okay. But the first time I dove into my healing work and diving into understanding myself, like that didn't come up because I wasn't in a place where I could have handled that type of realization. Where this is what I found, like even some of my friends that were there, I'm like, don't be scared because some other person is having this insane experience that seems too far out for you. You're never going to have that experience unless you're ready for that experience. So it's like your body, yourself, your soul, your highest self, whatever you want to call it, you're the one doing that work, and you're the one doing that healing, and you're never going to be set into something that you're not ready for. So your body knows what you're capable of handling and what you're ready for. And so there's nothing to be afraid of when you do dive into this work. And like another thing to remember is sometimes one of my friends who was there, she was like wanting this really deep experience right away. But I'm like, if you've never done this work, again, imagine you got thrown into something that you're not ready for. Your body knows better than that. It's not going to allow you to go there. And this specifically meaning breath work, because you're allowing your body to do its thing and bring up what needs to be brought up. And if you're not aware of this yet, your body stores emotions. Your body stores memories. Like your body remembers from the day you were 5 years old to 10 years old to 20 years old to 40 years old, however old you are. Your body remembers everything that has happened in your life. So even though your mind may have decided like, oop, that's really scary. Oop, that was really uncomfortable. Like we're just going to push that away. We're not going to deal with that because that is destructive to my life or like the life I'm trying to live, your body remembers. So if you haven't read the book, Your Body Keeps the Score, I said this, I think, in the last podcast episode, you can like just trust that your body is never trying to fight you or go against you. Like your body is there to support you and be there to help you through whatever it is you need to move through and go through. And think of it as like your ally and your partner. Like your body is there to support you and help you. However, if you think, this was me, that you are just like, oh yeah, nothing really bothers me. Like I'm totally fine. Everything's good. I'm totally fine. Just know that that stuff is within your body. Even though you think that you can outsmart it and you're like, I'm in my mind and I live from here up now. And so I am in control of everything and like nothing can hurt me or stop me or do anything to me. Just know that like things are happening in the rest of your body. You can try to live up here, but the only way to live up here is to close this. And if you guys can't see me, I'm putting my hands on my heart. Because when I was living in my head and like everything was logic brain and we need to do this next because this makes sense and this makes sense. And like, oh yeah, that seems like it's sad, but I don't allow feelings to come through my body. So I can't actually feel that I'm feeling sad right now because that would be uncomfortable. And that would mean I'm getting hurt and I don't want to get hurt. So I'm just going to keep living in my head and not tap into my heart because it feels safer. And the reason I did that was because I had been hurt. And I had been hurt repeatedly so many times in a small amount of time that I decided it was safer to close my heart. And if you are a human, I feel like most people have done this at some point in their life where they start to guard off themselves. They kind of put a shield and a barrier between themselves and other people and the world. They close down their heart. They block it off because it feels safer because they've been hurt so many times. And you start living out of this head and above, but also not within your body. And that was me. Like I wasn't living within my body because I had been hurt so many times. There was different things that had happened that it felt safer not to have to feel and be within my body with what was happening. And that is where you can find that like I found out what at one of my first like body work sessions where she was helping kind of using Reiki and all these other modalities to be like, oh, okay, we're storing this here. Okay, in your jaw, you're storing this life experience, right? And this is what really started to make sense for me to be like, oh my God, we really do store life experiences that we can remember up here within our body unless we've moved through them and actually felt those things. And where the hell was I going with that? So anyways, I don't even know. Oh yeah. Learning that I was really good at disassociating. Like I can have something crazy, chaotic happening right in front of my eyes and I can remain fully calm, no reaction, like logic brain handling what's happening, but I am not in my body. Like I've shut down my body, I've become numb and I'm not actually feeling what's happening. And I used to think this was a good superpower. And you know what? It served me in my life for a long period of time. I also feel like, how have I already been talking for 8 minutes? But this served me for a long period of time in my life until you start to realize, like, if you are shutting down all of the negative emotions because that feels too scary to have to feel sadness and grief and anger and frustration and all of those feelings, and you don't want to have to go in your body and feel that, and all of that hurt people have caused you, you don't want to have to go in your body and feel that, you also don't have the ability to feel love. And you may logically know love, but you don't have the ability to receive it when you're not willing to be in your body. The only way you're going to be able to feel and receive love is when you're willing to go back in to your body and deal with the stuff. And so the biggest takeaway that I want to share first, and then I'm going to jump through some of this, is in one of my breath works, I had the realization that I was like, okay, you need to remain, because I've been going through this where I'm like, okay, now that I've done all the work to open my heart, I've done therapy, I've done breath work, I've done body work, I've done all of these different modalities like Reiki, all of these things to try to clear and get me back into my body, actually feeling and living this experience. One of the biggest realizations that I had in my breath work is when I went through the pain, and this is the same thing that happened on my mushroom journey, when I would be like, okay, I'm leaning in. I'm going to lean into this pain right now. This doesn't feel comfortable. This hurts. It's really uncomfortable. I can feel my body starting to react. Oh my God, I'm crying. Okay, my body wants to move. Like I can feel all these things being shaken up. It doesn't feel comfy. But as soon as I allow myself to feel, you guys, the healing is on the other side. And every single time I let myself go in and feel that pain and like it's not even reliving a memory, it's transmuting that energy that's still sitting in your body. So I feel like sometimes what happens, especially if you're familiar with like talk therapy, for example, talk therapy is using your mind. You're thinking about the experience. That doesn't necessarily mean you're feeling it. I could logically repeat a situation that happened to me over and over and over again. That didn't actually have me go into my body, feel it, find where it is stored in my body, and transmute that energy through feeling. There is a massive difference in those two things. And so that's what I love about breathwork is it allows you to bypass your conscious mind where you're like thinking and being logical. You go into your subconscious and you have no choice, but if you want to, and again, you're in control of this still. But if I start feeling pain in my knee, for example, like, okay, like what is this trying to show me? And I'll sit with it. And then by sitting with that pain, sometimes a memory comes up or something comes up and you go, oh my gosh, yeah, that was really painful and that was really sad. And you start feeling the emotions. And then all of a sudden you feel tingles down your leg. That energy that you had stored in your knee is now transmuting and moving through you because you had the courage to actually sit there and feel it and allow it to move through your body. And now you can consciously remember the memory, but it's not as emotionally charged because you had the courage to get in there and feel it and let it move through you. And that's all emotions are, is their energy in motion. But if you don't feel the emotion, it gets stuck until you create the space to feel that thing and let it out. And so by doing that, I feel like I've been able to keep my heart open. But the big kind of aha I had too was, okay, in order to keep your heart open, you need to make sure that you're choosing things out of your heart and not hurt. And I want to elaborate on that for a second because I've realized that there's certain things in my life where, let's say this individual is hurting me, like they are hurting me. However, I'm not going to cut them out of my life because, okay, you hurt me, so you're out. Do you see how that's kind of like a fear-based response where you're just like getting them out of your life because they hurt you? That can still be caging yourself and shutting down versus coming from it from a place of, okay, I can feel that this is hurting my heart. And because I honor and love myself, I can feel that creating some space here is going to be the best thing for me. And it's not out of like, you hurt me, so like, F you, you don't get to be around me. No, it's out of a loving, heartfelt place that you're like, I love myself too much to allow this behavior because it's messing with my energy or my being or how I feel. And then creating a boundary or some space from a loving place. And so I just love that. And I'm going to think about that forever is like when I go to react or I feel triggered or I want to, I don't know, cut somebody from your life. Like that hasn't happened to me in a long time, but let's just say that's you where you constantly are like, oh, they hurt me. So like they're out of my life. I'm going to cut them. No, taking a moment to be like, okay, what is this showing up for me for? Like, where is this coming from? And sorry, my voice might still go in and out. Am I choosing to create a boundary out of like my heart and a love space or hurt and a fear space? And if you can reflect on that every time you go to make a decision, just take a moment to self-reflect first. And if you can start making choices from your heart space, that's going to be so much more helpful. And like, yes, when your heart is open, there's a chance that you're going to get hurt. And that's okay. That's part of life. And the biggest thing I would say to you is if you're someone who has been afraid of that because the last time you were hurt, it hurt so bad, is just know that when you have the courage to feel that pain, you feel love and peace on the other side every single time. Every single time that I've done the breath work or the mushrooms or whatever I've done in these ceremonies where at this point too, like I feel if you do breath work in a ceremonial space, it is a ceremony. You're giving yourself that safe space to feel and release. When I've given myself that, I never feel full of hurt and heaviness after. Like, yes, it can be a lot, but it always ends feeling peace and love and safety. Like I feel held and safe and I'm giving myself that. Nobody else is doing that for me. And I think that's really powerful too, when you're able to realize that like you have the ability to give yourself that gift when you're willing to have the courage to go in. And so another thing that showed up for me was, which is so funny. Like I could probably read this to you guys, but I did a tarot card reading last December. Okay. And in that reading, she like went through my life of 2023, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay. There was like a theme for every single month. And we're now in December, right? And I was thinking about this the other day because I went, that's so interesting. Like this knight in shining armor was supposed to show up for me. This like prince, Prince Charming. And I had the realization while I was there, I went, oh my God, like you're the knight in shining armor. Me mastering my masculine energy, not my wounded masculine, but figuring out my divine masculine, and like being able to create that and just basically figure out how to I don't know, operate from that in myself and to like heal the masculine wounding within me. That was me finding my divine masculine. It was not some knight in shining armor that was another individual or a man that was coming to save me, provide for me, provide security for me, all these things that I wanted. It was me finding a way to give that to myself. And that brings me to how I downloaded Hinge and had all these things. When I was there, I went, oh my gosh, like I finally, you can logically feel peace with being alone, but I finally found it within myself. Like nobody else can give me this level of peace, security, safety, the ability to protect and honor myself. Like that was the lesson, was what are all the ways in your life that you have dishonored yourself and self-abandoned yourself in the name of somebody else and doing something for somebody else, when in the meantime you were hurting yourself at the same time. Just for to back up for a second. So like I believe at this point, and this is just something that I feel like is conceptualizing and making so much more sense to me, that there's divine masculine and divine feminine, right? And that's the ultimate, is that those two people come together and they unite and they become one and they create this sacred union. Okay, great. But what I realized was no. Before, and not that someone who has like healing to do can't be with somebody and they can't do this together. However, for me right now, it wasn't me looking outside of myself for this like divine masculine man. It was me giving myself that energy and creating that within me. It was me healing those wounds and the way I was operating out of my wounded masculine in other areas of my life, giving myself the gift of being the provider, protector, and all those things within me, and realizing you don't need anyone outside of you. You needed to learn how to protect, honor, and guard your heart first, but in a healthy way, not in a, oh my God, these people hurt me, so like I'm going to block you out, in a way of realizing like because I've talked about this before, but like the last person I let into my life showed me those signs of like safety, security, like all of these amazing qualities that didn't actually like protect me, give me safety or security at all. It was just these qualities that individual had that I could see within them, right? And how they made me feel. And what was valuable from that was realizing like, okay, those things that I was seeing and like at the time seeking externally, I needed to learn to give to myself. Because every time you're looking for something and a need to be fulfilled outside of you, I feel like it blows up in your face every single time. Because no matter what, if you're seeking a need outside of you, they're also seeking a need outside of them. And maybe you're going to give each other those things, but there's no actual wholeness and completeness within you as an individual that you can then bring into a partnership. And that's where I feel like shit always ends up blowing up. So for me, it was just realizing like, holy crap, your knight in shining armor was you. And it was you being able to give all of that to yourself first before you're able to find another. And so I had a couple guys that I was willing to like talk to or see, and nothing in me wanted to, because I think for the first time I truly felt so at peace with myself. And I was just like, you know what? Like for the first time, I don't feel like I'm seeking. Even though I've been like, okay, on my own, I feel like part of me has been like, where is he? Like, where's this guy? Where's this person? And it sent me back for a minute to be like, whoa. Like you've been looking outside of you when this whole time it's been within you this whole time. You needed to give this to yourself first. And so that was like the most beautiful thing ever. And that happened in a breathwork session. Okay. And then before I even go into any of the other stuff, I wanted to read a little bit about this love versus fear part, because I think this is really valuable. And already I'm like, how the hell have I been talking for 20 minutes? And also, on another side note, like if you don't know, you guys, I also broke a nail. So if you're watching this, it's really sad because these are my real nails, and you know what it takes to grow out your real nails to be even. So cool. Anyways, if you don't already know what Awaken is with Danny Morel. I have loved him. I found him last year. I went to my first Awaken in March. So March, June, or July, and then now in December. So I've gone to 3. Every single one has been different. Every single one has brought up different things in me. I just feel like this is the most healing, and like you can find, like I do women's circles, for example, where we do breath work. Like you can find things locally. But when you go somewhere and you commit 3 days of time to healing yourself and diving in to do the deep inner work for you, magic happens. And everyone that I had come with me, because every other one, I went with one friend to the last one, but this time we had over 10 people with us, I think. And to watch the impact it had on them was freaking magical. Like being able to see how impactful it was, because here's the thing, like you can go to talk therapy and you can do all these things, but until you get deep, deep, deep within your body, I just don't think you can get as deep as and have as much profound healing as you are capable of until you're willing to go there. And like this allows you to get there. And I've never been to another event like it. And because he ties in health, relationships, and business, I feel like it's all encompassing no matter what you need in your life, to be able to pull up all of these things that are always going to be heavily impacting you. So that was the Awaken. That's what it is, if you don't know that. And I can like link it in the show notes too. But I wanted to first talk a little bit about the love versus fear concept. And I feel like I've talked about this a little bit before. Gabby Bernstein's book, The Universe Has Your Back. I'm sorry about my voice too. I'm still a little bit sick. But The Universe Has Your Back was the first book that I read where I started to really understand this concept of love versus fear. And that when you simplify everything into an energy of like, okay, is this love or fear? It helps you be like, okay, it's kind of like the hurt versus heart. Like, where are you choosing this from? How are you reacting to this from? Is it from love or is it from fear? And anyway, so here, I'm going to read a couple of the notes and see what comes up, just in case there's anything helpful here for you guys. But basically, the first note that I have here is to stop living in fear and stop attracting the energy. Okay. So like when you are living in fear, you're going to attract fear to you. When you're living in love, you're going to attract love to you. This doesn't necessarily mean romantic love, but like, just think about it. The person who is like, oh my God, I'm so worried I'm going to be late to work and I'm going to have this happen. I'm going to have this happen. And like, what happens on their way to work? Like you hit the train or you, get in the accident or you get the speeding ticket. Like it just attracts more shit to you. Where when you're just like, I'm just flowing and like, we're going to get there when we get there. Like you end up getting there early somehow because you're just in flow and you're not choosing fear and you're not in this like worried state. Another part was he had said like fear holds on and fear doesn't release. Love allows. And I loved this because I just went, for myself and like my own experiences, when I have, okay, so here's the thing. I talked about this in the human design episode, but when I was afraid to make the decision to separate, I didn't act on that because for me, I want to make a choice that's not super emotionally charged and is out of a place of love, really. Like, and I feel like that's what I did with the separation when I was afraid. Like I was so afraid of, okay, but what about the kids? And what about this? And what about that? And like, how are we going to live? And who's going to live where? And like, what are we going to do? And how are we going to, we're living in California and then are we going to have to go home and blah, 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 right? Like all of these crazy thoughts. I had to realize like, and this was a major thought for me, was because I care about him and I love him as a human, this is not fair. Like for me to try to like want him to be someone he's not, for me to hold on because I'm afraid of what would happen if I didn't hold on. That's not love. That's me choosing to stay because I'm too afraid of like what could happen on the other side of it. Where when I went, okay, you know what? Like you, honestly, truly, like a massive part of me wanted him. I knew how much he would grow by like us separating. And I knew that by me kind of us still staying together, it was like creating comfort for both of us that wasn't super helpful. And it wasn't from a place of love. And so when I chose to release, because again, fear doesn't hold on, or fear holds on and fear isn't willing to release, it was me not choosing from fear. When I was living out of a place of fear, that's when I was holding on. That's when I was afraid to release. But as soon as I dropped into that energy of love and I went, you know what? Like, I love myself. I love him. I love our kids. I know that everything is going to work exactly as it's supposed to. And I have trust that no matter what, like even if we go apart, if we're meant to be together, like we'll end up back together. There's no reason we wouldn't. But if we're not meant to be together and our lives are going to be so much more amazing once we create the separation, then great. Like I'm willing to trust whatever it is supposed to be. And that to me is such a perfect example of like the difference between how fear holds on and love allows. And you can apply this to any area of your relationship, your life. Like if you're holding on to a job because you're afraid of what will happen if you let it go, versus being like, no, I love myself so much. And like, I trust myself to know that like, I can find a different way in an energy of love, that I can find a way to have a career. Like, I don't need to just hold on to this thing because I'm afraid of all these other outcomes. Do you see how that makes sense? So like, just that simple reminder of like, fear holds on and isn't willing to release, and love allows, and love creates space. Just again, another reminder to be like, in your day to day, when you're choosing things, are you doing it from a tightening and a holding on because you're so afraid? Or are you doing it from an open space of like, I feel so open and good. Like, I don't know. I'm doing it from an energy of love. So just checking in with yourself to see how you're operating. And then he also had said like the bridge between fear and love is courage. And in those examples that I just showed you, do you see how courage was the thing? Courage was the thing between the two. Like you have to be willing to have the courage to take the action that like is the bridge, is the jump to get you to the other side. Yeah. And he also just like, fear loves to blame, fear hates personal responsibility. And when you live in fear, you aren't able to really listen to your heart. And so ultimately you're co-creating that. So all the energy that fear creates in your life, like you have to know, because you are living from that energy, that is why your life looks the way it does. Where if you were in a space of like choosing love, your life is going to look completely different. You're going to welcome more love into your life when you're living from a loving place. Okay. Yeah, just you're the creator of your experience. How labels keep you separate and allow you to blame and stay a victim, and you'll be stuck for the rest of your life if you don't drop the labels. This is something that I feel is so important. I have had people say like, you are this, or anything with an I am statement, I just find to be very dangerous, because it's creating an identity around a thing that so often is not actually who you are. So just an example, like I am a nurse, I am a teacher, I am a wife, I am a mom, I am a. Usually all these things are outside of you. They're things that you're doing or being, and like it's an attachment to that thing. Or it could be like, I am this race, I am this religion, I am this belief system, like whatever it is, just to know how that can create even political, like I am this, I don't even know, whatever political belief system is, how all of those things create separation amongst people. And when you choose to have separation amongst people, that's what creates a divide. That's what makes people feel separate or different. And it creates space between people. And a lot of the time, that is the thing that creates this divide. And it doesn't allow people to see that like we're all so similar. Anyways, he basically said like love represents life and fear represents death. And sorry. And the one thing else I want to say too is we did this exercise where we had to basically go and find somebody. He said like, make someone that looks different than you, that you maybe don't think you'd have anything in common with. And at this point, I know that every single person you're always going to have something in common with, even when you wouldn't expect it. But so many of the people that come are new and don't realize how connected we really are. And so it's always fun for me to hear these people share their stories about like what they realize about the other person, because I'm like, there's always massive similarities and connections. And so we did this exercise, and basically where you have to stare into the other person's eyes for 2 minutes and you can't talk and you have to completely stay within eye contact. And what was so cool about this was without any words, I was able to feel her story, her pain. When I would feel pain, she would hold space for me. When she was in pain, I would hold space for her. And this like beautiful dance of emotional connection that didn't require any words. It didn't require any I ams. All it required was us being 1000% present with each other in that moment and looking into each other's eyes. And like looking into each other's eyes, we connected so deeply. Like I feel like I know her on such a deep level. And all we did was talk for like 2 seconds and look each other in the eyes for 2 minutes. That's it. And so just the power of that, if you don't even, and just how much understanding and compassion comes up for the other person when you're able to really see them, not like the mask and not all the things that they're saying and the guarding, but you really look at them and you really see them. It was just so beautiful. Okay. Yeah. And just basically tying all of that to like the only reason that there's hate or war is because we hate ourselves and we're not happy with the relationship with ourselves. Also learning not to love ourselves through our parents. So this is something that I find really interesting. And like the way that I would explain it is think of your baby, right? When they come out into the world, the most important thing to them is like mom and dad or whoever their two caregivers are, right? The people who are in their life providing food, safety, security, nurturing, all the things. Those are like God to them. Like that is the most important person in their life. And what I find so interesting, I just got so distracted. Let me take a sip of this. You know, when you're talking and then another thought comes through your mind? So you're thinking of that thought, but you're still trying to keep the words coming to your mouth that are totally unrelated. That's what just happened. But basically, so an example that he gave was like, the kid is he's just like having fun on his bike and is about to keep going and he's about to go in the street. And so the dad yells and he goes, stop, and like grabs him. And the dad is doing it out of a fear-based place of like, and wanting to keep the child safe. He's not doing it out of a harmful place. But in that moment, the child is like put into this fear state from the parent or like feels hurt by the parent or whatever happens in that situation. And just how much like those little moments obviously were well-meaning parents, but it can put fear into the child. It can create this reaction with the child where they don't feel 100% safe or they don't feel loved. Or like, let's just say, even for me, I had this massive realization, I think in one of the breath works, where I went, oh my God, no, it was while one of the girls was sharing at the health intensive. She was saying this example of when she was sitting and like, why does she eat, or what is the emotion that's stored in her belly? And she was like, it's sadness. And she was like, okay, what makes you feel sad? And she was like, I'm always alone. And she was like, what do you mean you're alone? And she was like, all I can see myself right now is crying underneath the covers in my room alone. And it sent me back to a memory of like all the times that I cried alone under the covers in my room alone. Two well-meaning parents who loved me, but based on the way that parenting was at that time, like there was a lot of times where it was like go to your room, just go to your room. So how many times I had to feel emotions alone. And why is it hard for me to self-express and like show my emotions with other people? Well, like my whole life I didn't have that. And so I just think, how beautiful is this? Like what I'm giving my kids, I had this realization that they never feel emotions alone unless they want to. So like I give them the option every single time to like hold them and feel them and love on them. And sometimes they're like, I just want to be alone. And I'm like, okay, be alone. And then I hold space and I sit and I wait. And then when they're ready, they come to me and they finish crying with me, or they express what was going on for them with me. And I had that realization. I was like, oh, I'm so glad that I'm doing that, which is amazing. But on the flip side, I also had a vision where I was alone in my living room drawing or like doing homework or something at the table, and my mom was doing the dishes. There's nothing wrong with this. But in that moment, I was sent back to not feeling like seen, and this is the way children interpret things. It's not real life, but it made me like have a crazy aha moment for me and my kids. Was she was just in the kitchen doing the dishes, like having to do the normal household stuff. I was in the living room sitting there feeling sad, like she's always distracted or always busy, and like I don't feel as important. that's just the way it gets internalized as a child. Like, I don't feel seen. I don't feel loved. I don't feel valued. I don't feel important. I don't feel special. All these things start to happen when our focus is elsewhere, and obviously fair. Like, we can't be 100% present with our kids all of the time. But it made me go, holy crap. Like, I can't just be with my kids. Like, I can, but I can't. And I'm going to explain this for a second. So I realized that I was like, whenever they're just doing something or they're busy playing or doing anything, I'm always doing something. Like, I'm doing the dishes, or I'm cleaning, or I'm making them food, or I'm on my phone because I'm trying to get something done, or I'm on the computer trying to get something done, or I want to be on doing something else. And like, I'm not able to just be. A lot of the time, I have a really hard time not being productive. Like, just sitting down and being is so uncomfortable. Like, it is so uncomfortable for me. I want to be doing something. And this is something new that I'm learning. And like, this is only over the last few months or even the last year that I've acknowledged that, holy crap, it's really hard for me to sit still. Like, I have a really hard time with it. And what I realized in that moment was, I went, okay, is this mine, or is this like a learned behavior? Like, where is this coming from? And this is the value of self-reflection, when you can go like, okay, did I learn this from a parent? And you know what? As I'm saying this out loud, oh my God, my dad has a really hard time sitting still. Like, he constantly has to be doing stuff. And if he's not doing something, he, like, it's always moving and doing and like doing things. And he's so good at being present with the kids, but he's always doing. And so I don't know if this is just me or if it's a combination of learned experiences from parents, right? But through being so on for so many years to build my business, to now just sit and do nothing is hard. And then obviously with kids, it's like they take up so much of your time all day, like making them food, doing this for them, like taking them to the bath, doing, like, you do so much as a parent for your kids all day. And I just realized, like, wow, is there ever any time where I'm just sitting while they're playing, for example, and just observing how special they are, how amazing they are, how incredible they are? And I went, holy crap, I barely ever do that. If they're doing something, I'm like, oh, good, they're doing something. I better go do something. And I had the realization before I even came home that I was like, I am going to put in so much more of an effort to drop everything I'm doing. The dishes don't matter. The cooking doesn't matter. My like texts and emails don't matter. The things that I want to get done don't matter. I'm just going to sit and like watch them and show them how much I think they're amazing. And what I've noticed by this is like their little eyes, oh my God, it's going to make me cry, are looking at you for that validation every time they're doing anything. And reel it in. See, if I wanted to just be in my body right now, I'd let myself feel this. But I need to keep talking for you guys. But their eyes are looking up at us all the time to be like, do you see what I'm doing? Like, see how amazing I am? Do you think I'm amazing? Do you think I'm special? Like, me doing this right now, like, how special am I? They just want to know that they're special and amazing and unique and seen and heard and understood and valued and loved on. And this all ties back, oh my God, to the girl I did the eye gazing exercise with. You guys, eye contact. Like, eye contact is so wildly important. And our little kids, like, I've seen this before, and I saw this one time. This dad was feeding this baby a bottle, and the baby was just staring like at the dad's eyes, just craving the eye contact and that attention. And he didn't look at him once. And this is not his fault. Like, we live in a really, really busy world and society. But that baby, all it wanted, its whole world, was its dad, the caregiver who was feeding that baby. And he's like looking at something else, and he was on his phone and he's doing all these things. And I get it, because I do the same thing sometimes. And I did while I was nursing all the time, because you're like, oh my God, they're finally quiet. I can like do something. But it just made me realize, like, is there really anything else that's more important? Like, my kids are going to be 7 before I know it, and they're going to be on to becoming older. And I'm like, I just want to cry again. It's also like my first day period, so I'm feeling extra emotional. I cried last night too. Yeah. I just want to soak it all up. Like, oh my God, this is so annoying. But I just want to soak it up. Like, I want to, from all the times that I was so busy, you guys, I can't pull it together. From all the times I was so busy doing all these other things, oh my God. I can't pull it together. I just want to be able to, like, now that I'm conscious of it and aware of it, I just want to be able to consciously choose to be present. And like, you would hear, be present, and like, all they need is you, and like, you hear these things. But there's a difference of hearing it and then like knowing it and understanding it. And I finally get it, where I'm like, they just want to feel special. And so something I've been doing for this is every night now, at least an hour or two before they'd normally go to sleep, I'm like getting them off their iPads. We're going upstairs, and this is really hard for me, but I'm trying to spend the entire time fully present, like putting my phone away and being 100% with them, not doing anything else. And so whether we're dancing or they're showing me something, like, they just want me to watch them. They want to perform and be seen as special and like watch my reactions to them. They love it. And that's so simple. Like, they don't need anything. They just need me and my eyes. And of course, like, I'm around, like, I've been around since they were babies. I've been with them. Like, I've been here. I do everything for them, but they don't really care about any of that. Like, they just care about that really, really close connection time. I need to get like a tissue, but that really close connection time where they get to just be and have you really, really see them. So if you're a parent, I will just say, never underestimate the power of eye contact, and they're literally craving it. So like, you don't need to do it all day. Obviously we have other things we need to do, but I'm making a way better effort at, like, in the morning, and these are the most important connection times anyways, is right in the morning and right at night before bed, carving out connection time where, like, I don't have anything else planned and I'm able to just be there with them and give them as much attention as I can, like looking in their eyes and just watching them. And that was a big realization for me, was like, holy shit, like, all this memory from when I was a child, like, I'm doing this right now to my own kids. My mom didn't mean to. She's well-meaning. And I know she gave me so much attention. But in that moment of feeling that sadness of my mom being busy, I just went, oh my gosh, how many, I don't know what the right term for this is, but how many like attempts have my kids probably made, or like, what are they called? Like advances or something? There's some like proper term for this, but where they're like bids. I think it's like called bids for affection, where they do things and they're trying to like get your attention or get affection, but you're busy. And how many times like they might have to repeat themselves before I actually like tune in and hear it. And I just went, holy crap, like, I want to be way more conscious about how present I am truly being with them, because that's so much more important than anything else. And yeah, I'm just glad that I finally realized that. So I don't even know what else to really say. Yeah, oh, that part about the bike situation and like the dad just responding to try to keep him safe. Ultimately, what happens in that moment is your nervous system is dysregulated. And every time that your nervous system gets dysregulated, it makes you feel unsafe. And if that's constantly happening to a child where you're constantly yelling at them, being like, oh my God, stop this or stop this, or you're living in that constant fear state even, their nervous system gets dysregulated. And this is something to tie back to another reason I felt like it was so important. And separation doesn't have to be the answer, but like get your shit figured out as a partnership between two parents. Because I realized that I was like, us being in that tension, even if your children are not responding, their nervous system is attached to you, especially until they're 7. They literally can't even regulate on their own. So both my kids are under 7. If they're regulating on my nervous system and my nervous system is all jacked up all day long being around each other, and I'm feeling uneasy and I'm feeling like, and I'm feeling very like triggered or reactive or any of those things, their little nervous systems are plugged into mine. They're going to feel that. And so creating more space in my life to be regulated and be present and be calm creates a calm, safe nervous system for themselves, which is going to be able to create that within themselves for the rest of their life. And obviously, as they approach 7, I'm doing so much more with them to try to teach them. Now my nose won't stop running, which is going to be great for like the close-up clips where I'm like, be all close up and have snot in my nose from crying. But I'm teaching them more things about like, okay, when you're feeling this way, we can breathe, but that's all age dependent. Like you can't always teach those things when they're really little. So anyways, I feel like that is the number one thing, is like when you as an adult are able to help yourself live in a place of love and a regulated nervous system, give that to yourself, and you're able to pass that gift on to your kids because they're living around you and with you. And that's the most valuable thing you can do as a parent. If you learn those skills, which are life skills that most of us were never taught, you're able to pass that down to your kids, and they're going to have completely different lives through knowing how to regulate their own nervous systems, to understand their emotions, to understand what they're feeling, to be able to make choices from love instead of fear. And when you keep representing that to your kids, like so much of what they learn is caught from you, and you don't even need to teach them. Like they literally just see you do that and they will learn those skills too. So just to add that in. Yeah, basically I feel like this is getting long. Yeah. This was basically another part that he had talked about, which is the same realization I had, was that there isn't really like a masculine and a feminine. These energies are within us, but when you have kind of healed both of those sides of you, it really does become like a oneness and a connection with God. It gives you this connection to like God, source, whatever you want to call it. But what I see it as now is like creating that sacred union within yourself, and like everything else can start to fall into place after that. Yeah. Anyways, to do anything else that I want to share. I think that was the biggest one. And really just realizing that like, if you are someone who's right now feeling like you want safety, security, and all of these other feelings from your partner, I, for a little while, felt like, okay, yeah, like I already provide for myself, I already do that. So like technically I'm safe and secure, but I didn't feel true safety and security within myself. And now that I feel like I do have that, and I'm sure other layers will be unlocked of like other areas, right? But just realizing that like the masculine I was looking for outside of myself to save me was me all along was such a massive realization of truly everything you need and are seeking is you first of all, it's within you, but you need to find it within you. Like that is the most important thing. So whether you're in a partnership or not, like finding that connection within yourself, and then coming from a whole, healthy, happy, complete place within you, your partner can hopefully do the same thing. And then you can have this like amazing union between each other. And then of course, if you're separated or you're single right now, like again, finding it within yourself before you go seek it elsewhere, because yeah, I don't know. And then one other part too, was he had just said, I think he said this, but my only purpose is to be me. and being me is enough. And I just went, wow. Like, because we live in this place where we feel like we need to be achieving or accomplishing or doing or just all these other things. And it was like, you just being who you are is enough. Like, we don't have to stay stuck in this achievement trap of wanting to accomplish all of these things and like continuing to keep going. And I don't know if it was him or where I heard this, but it was basically the story about these two people who were sitting in a bar, and I guess they were with the same company. And the man was like, she was like, oh, I have something that you can't have, right? They're like sitting there. And he's like, what do you mean you have something that I can't have? Like, I have everything I want. And like, I have all the money in the world. I can buy anything. Like, what is it? And she went, I have enough. And I just went, whoa, it's so true. Like, you can get stuck in this achievement trap and you end up missing your life. And like, I'm a high achiever. I like to achieve things. I like to accomplish things. I know that I have this like big purpose and I'm supposed to impact people and impact lives and all of these things. But what I've had to try to balance and learn within myself now is I can want to do all that and I can want to impact people, but at what cost? Because I can want to chase more money and I still do want to earn more money and I still do want to be able to have podcasts. And honestly, if I didn't have my kids at this age right now, I would be doing so much more with this like all of the time because I love it. But I have to realize like doing what I can do is enough. Like, if I can only fit in one recording a week, that's all I can do. And that's enough. If I can't create all of the social media content I want to because I'm being more present with my kids, that's not a bad thing. Like, that's okay. And I think realizing like there's so many things I want to achieve in this life, but like I have so much more time. So like do the things that you want to do. And obviously don't not pursue your goals. But if you are the person who feels like you constantly have to be productive 24/7, then it's time for you to also realize and relearn how to just be. And if you're the person who never accomplishes anything and you're really good at just being, then like maybe you're on the other side where you also need to learn how to do sometimes, right? But just knowing that like life is also meant to be lived and there is such thing as enough, and like you get to decide what that enough is. You get to decide what your success to you looks like. You get to decide all of that. So just knowing that like creating space for you to just be is so key. And like, this is totally off topic, but not really, because we've been talking about relationships. So many people have asked me lately, because one of my posts is kind of going viral, and they're asking me like, okay, but how do I be in my feminine? And I'm like, that's such a funny, like, obviously someone in their masculine would say that because it's like they're looking for a way to do it. Where what I've learned for me is like, it's really just carving out time to be, like, presence. Like me not having my phone or trying to accomplish anything and just literally watching my kids. That's feminine. That's you being. You're learning to just sit there. Like, you as you being you is enough. And so you being able to just sit there and watch your kids, great. The same way if you're trying to call in a partner, but you have no space in your life, which is honestly me right now. Like, okay, I want this partnership, but I'm like, where am I going to fit this person in? Like, where do I have space? Unless they're going to come live the exact life I'm living. Like, I don't really. And so it's realizing like, okay, creating space to just be, like carving out 2 hours in your calendar where you literally have nothing to do. For me, it's been like, you know what? I really want to watch a Christmas movie. Okay, I'm getting rid of distractions and I'm just going to sit and watch a Christmas movie. I'm not going to try to multitask. I'm not going to try to do laundry at the same time. I'm not going to try to do cooking and cleaning at the same time. Like, I'm just going to sit there. And I'm consciously forcing myself to slow down because I was like operating like that. And this is hard, you guys. This is really, really hard to unlearn when you're constantly achieving and accomplishing and being productive and getting things done all the time. Like, it's not easy to make yourself just have to sit there, but it's learning how to do that because it gives you the space. And for me, it's given me so much more creativity. It's like calming my nervous system down to like operate a little more slowly. And this is so valuable. So just giving yourself that space, like if you are in that place right now, if you're like, okay, I'm constantly doing all of the time, I'm always in my masculine energy, how do I become more feminine? Just carve out 2 hours a couple times a week where like you have nothing scheduled, where maybe you take a bath, maybe you read a book, maybe you do some stretch yoga. I know that's a doing thing, but it's not out of the intention of, I got to do this and I got to do that. It's like, you know what? I'm laying on the floor right now and it feels really good to just stretch. And you're just in it. It's presence. Like that's how I'm starting to see the differences. It's like both of these need to be, I'm so sorry about my congested nose. Both of these energies need to be within you and both are valuable. So it's like when you're operating too much in your masculine, it's not being a man. That's not what this is. The same way there's masculine men that need to learn to be in their feminine. Like we are we are both masculine and feminine beings. We are not just one or the other. Just because we're a female doesn't mean that we need to be feminine all the time. That is not what masculine and feminine energies mean. What they mean is that you're able to unify them, bring them together, and be able to really like live out both in harmony and know when to lean into the other. Anything when you're over the top on one thing and not the other, like it leads to, what's the right word for this? Like a lack of balance. So if it's unbalanced, you need to learn how to bring it more into balance and more into harmony. And that's learning how to do both. So like there's going to be seasons where you're way more in your masculine. Like when I was building my business and like go every single day, it served a massive purpose. Massive. I accomplished so much. Super beneficial. Nothing bad or wrong. But when you're in that doing, other things are always there's going to be like it's going to take a toll on something else. And so in that season, I didn't have very much presence. I wasn't just taking care of myself. And so it's been unlearning, like not even unlearning, just relearning how to be in my body, be present, allow space for myself to do things out of enjoyment and not productivity. I'm learning. Like I'm not perfect. I don't have this wholeheartedly figured out. I'm learning it all. And it's like all starting to really click for me and make sense for me. But actually living it out is different than logically understanding it. And so I feel like I've gotten way better at this. Like there's so much space in my day where I'm not working, where I'm fully present, where I'm like doing things that I enjoy again, like making homemade almond milk or baking or reading a book. Even right now, I'm like, okay, I don't have the kids. Like I should do this and this and this and this and go to the gym. And part of me is like, okay, but also reading a book without interruptions, also really nice. And so it's just carving out time for you to do things that are for you, I think is more your feminine. And like you can think of it as like the nurturing and the loving and all that, like whether it's dancing or singing, like those things. And again, men can dance, men can sing, men can bake, men can be in their heart, men can carve out time for rest and relaxation. This isn't a female male thing. This is both of these matter within us. And we need to know how to do both. So just think like, honestly, again, like choosing things out of your heart is going to be the things that are put you more in your feminine because it's you connected to you. And I think that's the biggest shift or difference of like understanding is that your masculine is more you're doing and in your mind and your feminine is more in your heart. So any activities or any things that you do or anything that puts you in your heart space and makes you feel like love and joy, that's your feminine. Doesn't have to be super complex. Anything that's like very much like a learning or like doing or accomplishing or productivity thing from that energy is more your masculine. So it's just an energy thing. Like if when you're cooking, you're totally in your heart and you're like feeling in your body and you're feeling so good, like great. That's your feminine. Versus sometimes I cook and I'm like, okay, I got to get this done because I have to be here at this time. Like that's more of like my productivity brain. So just starting to see the difference of like, when are you in your productivity brain and when are you in your heart space? That's masculine and feminine. That's the simplest way that I could explain it. And if you're always like, holy shit, I'm always in my mind. Okay, how do you drop into your heart? What brings you there? Learn how to practice that and do that more. Maybe it's dancing and going out with your girlfriends. Great. You just learned how to be more feminine because you were in your heart. So it's not overcomplicating it. It's just pulling yourself into those two spaces when you need to, because both are really beneficial. And that totally, I don't know how I got on that, but I didn't even share about some of these other pieces. I'm going to have to record another one talking about the health intensive because, this is almost an hour. And anyways, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being here. I'm going to cut it off here. And thanks for hearing me cry and talk about some of my realizations out loud. And I will record another one all about the health intensive. Thanks for listening. I hope this is helpful, even though I went in like 900 directions. I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. See you in the next episode.